All right, so good morning to everyone. And contrary to the previous speaker, I will be seated. I hope this will not be a problem. I'm a bit tired, so I hope you will understand. So what I will present to you today is basically preliminary research. It's the preliminary work I intend to do in this year of research with this project. And of course it will be on the history of female labor. It will be on mobility, and much more on mobility than migration, on infrastructure development, and of course of northern Ghana, so one of the nations on which the project is focused. So any feedback from you is absolutely welcome. So, okay, let's start with the map. As you can read in the first point, these are the main migration routes in Ghana and in general in that part of West Africa. But don't trust the dates, because these are routes that could be considered valid even before 1946. So these can be considered starting around 1920s, and later we will see why. So these are the main migratory flows that came into Ghana, and the majority of people that moved along these flows were males. In fact, they were not women. Males that aimed at work in the gold mines in the south of Ghana, in the cocoa fields in the south of Ghana, and especially also in the rapidly expanding urban economies of the cities of the south along the coast, such as Accra, for example, or also Kumasi. So most of them were men that moved seasonally, and after an extended period away from home, they returned to their place of origin. So a bit premise before I go further. The history of North Ghana and South Ghana is quite different. So usually the North is associated with rural life, poverty, lack of development projects, lack of education, for example, while the South is actually the opposite. Is generally wealthier, more urbanized, and so on. But it's important to note that the portion of wealth of the South also originates from the North. Because as you can see from these migratory flows, a lot of people that went south working in infrastructural projects, the mines, came from the north. So a lot of the national economy of today Ghana, but also the Gold Coast, was mobilized by people that were coming from the north. And most of all, very little is said in literature about women who were moving along this migration path. Well, let's say that much is said for women after 1970s and after 1960s, but I was able to find little data on women that moved along these migratory flows before 1950s and the 60s. But of course, it is highly likely that also women participated in these predominantly male migratory flows. And we have got some examples that provide evidence for this. The first example comes from an article by Brenda Chalfin, wrote in 2001, where the author analyzed the transborder trade between Ghana and Burkina Faso. In this part, I don't know if you can see, yes, the mouse, in this part of Ghana. And so she has analyzed three specific goods: clothing, sheep butter, and beans, and the movement of these goods along the border. And these trade flows were interregional, were transborder, and were predominantly managed by women. Women manage these trade flows. So women travel, move to find customers, try to locate wholesaler and expand their business even across the boundary. So negotiating with the authorities the real control across the boundary. And the article was based on what happened in the 90s, but the author says that these mechanisms were well established before the 90s. So when did they begin? I asked myself, how did they start? And the second example comes from a very well-known author, that is Gracia Clark, that worked on African market women, and is coming from a well-known text that is called African Market Women from 2010. And in this text, the author gathers life stories of market women from Kumasi, so in the south, you can see here. And one of these stories is particularly striking, the one of Abina Adia. And it's particularly relevant to my project because Clark interviewed Abina in 1979, and when she was around 40 or 50 years old. And she traded in tomatoes, and she followed the trade route that started in Bolgatanga, that is at the crossroad, is at the crossroad here, but she traded in Kumasi. Not many traders engaged in this trade route because the journey is very long. It's not easy to, especially in the 70s, it was not easy to carry. And during the history that she was telling to the author, she revealed that actually her mother introduced her to this trade. So we can say that this connection between the north of Ghana and the south, between female market traders, started at least since the 1930s and 1930s. So my primary objective in this research will be to try to elucidate the female commercial networks that branched out from northern Ghana. And so how much did the class of women, of working women in the markets in northern Ghana influenced the growth in terms of trade in the region? So what was their work ethic? How they built their business networks over time, even because these business networks were in a way counter logic to what was happening actually in Ghana. So how did they work? How did they confront challenges, and how they achieved success if they did? And of course, there were women who were working along these migratory routes, even because in these years, starting from the 20s to the 70s, many cities in northern Ghana experienced growth. And so there were people that were working inside this city and that were bringing inside the city trade goods basically. So. And in a way, my project also want to go against a bias on northern Ghana of people living in poverty and not being able to react to big historical processes. So in this project, I will work on three key elements: mobility, migration, and market. So let's make a short synthesis about migration. The migration from north to south Ghana began around the early 19th century, the early 20th century. Of course, there was movement of people before that date, but they were basically merchants and caravan traders. So there were some women moving along this road between the 20th century, but not many of these women were free to choose to travel of this road. They were enslaved women, basically. After the British declared the protectorate at the beginning of the 20th century in the north of Ghana, they started the forced labor migration. They need a lot of people to work in the public work departments in the south. They need people to work in the gold mines in the south, And they also need people to be enlisted in the army, so to be soldiers. And as you already understood, all of these people were male, were basically male. But this forced migration that even continued after the 1930s were basically a failure, because a lot of people fled, a lot of people deserted, so colonial officers were not able to force a lot of people to move. But starting from the 20s, voluntary migration started to kick in. So people voluntarily decided to move from North Ghana to the south. And especially at the beginning, it was a particularly difficult migration, difficult movement, because it was done by foot. But in 1920s, things changed, mostly because of infrastructure development, and mostly because of what the British officers called the Great North Road. So a road that connected the north of the country, so Bolgatanga, as you can see here, and Navrongo, to the south, to Kumasi, and that later will connect Accra to Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. So the opening of this road changed and altered profoundly the migration patterns, because people started freely to traverse this road, started to travel along the road, and not only to migrate, but also to work. Of course, the road gave a lot of new travel working opportunities, as for example, African private transport company. Ex-soldiers that came from the war started to run their own business and run their own lorries that were traveling along this road. So what I want to focus on are not really migrants, but entrepreneurs. So women entrepreneurs that started to use this road, started to take advantage of the, let's say, this revolution in mobility, and decided not to migrate, but to use the road to expand their business, to make their business grow. Just one point about migration and female migration from the north to the south. A lot of things a lot of data that I was able to find state that very few women decided to migrate from the north to the south. Of these, many followed their husbands, and the ones who voluntarily decided to migrate, it was because they want to run away from the north. They want to run away from a region that did not give them opportunity to grow. So in a way, the kind of research that I'm trying to do run also counter this kind of migration. And of course, I will focus on markets. So I will focus on markets both thematically, but also physically, even because the markets were the public spaces where one can observe unfolding the migration, but also the working of these women. And I decided to focus mostly on wholesalers. So women that decided to trade in great quantity of a selected good. And this is something that I also want, maybe I would like to have some feedback from you, because depending on the goods that I will choose for my research, the research will be different. It will really change the kind of sources, the kind of people that I need to go to interview. So let's talk about methodology. One of the key points of this conference, actually. So I will work mainly on archives and libraries that you can see here, based in the UK, so London, Cambridge, and Oxford, but I will also work on missionary sources, on the White Fathers archives in Rome, and of course on sources based in Ghana. And of course not only written ones, but also photographic collection, even because one of the key points of the project was working with picture. And actually I was able to find a lot of collection from anthropologists, colonial officers, missionaries, and also local people in mostly all of these archives and libraries that you can see here. And one thing that struck me is that paradoxically it's easier to see women in photographic archives than in written sources. When I see picture of markets of North Ghana, it is full of women, while when you read a colonial report of that markets, there are no women at all. No one is talking about them. So I will go, of course, in North Ghana and make interviews. I will use the photo-elicitation methodology, which I hoped was better discussed during this day and the last day, even because I'm not sure about the success of this methodology. It really depends, and this is something that also I want to speak with you, because it really depends on the people to whom you are showing the picture, and also the moment. Maybe you have first to create a connection, an emotional connection. I don't know. This is I will take an open floor for photo elicitation. Then I will proceed by ramification. I already did some research in the market of Bolgatanga especially, so I will take my connection and then expand them. And I will do not structured interviews. I will try to collect life histories, and why not also with the river of life method. So I will start the research with the town of Bolgatanga, that, as you can see from the map, is just the furthest point in the north of Ghana. Because it is a town where I already started to do research, but also because historically it was a really lively trading town that grew actually during this period, so between the 20s and the 70s. And also because market women were really important, I suppose, for the history of this town. One of the founding history of the city recollects that market women actually gave the name of the town, because there was these colonial officers that appeared all of a sudden in the town, and then he asked market women where was he, what was the name of the town, and the women that were standing on a rock that in the vernacular is called tanga. And this rock was close to a place where to extract soft soil. Bolenga in the vernacular say we are in Bolenga Tanga, so the place where we can extract soft soil. So also in the founding history of the town, there are these market women that actually are totally disappeared from colonial sources. I have some clues about what goods to follow. For example, tomatoes. As I said at the beginning, it is a good that was traded along this road. Shea butter and the connection with Burkina Faso, or pito. You can see a woman here in the picture brewing pito, that is an alcoholic beverage typical of northern Ghana, and that expanded during these years. Or even cola nuts. I'm still trying to selecting the kind of goods on which I want to focus. And also I need to make clear the chronological periodization of this project. I mean, for sure the period of 20s and 30s is a period of creation, is a creative period, because that one was where the years where the road was completed. And so new business networks could have been born in this period, but also the 30s and the 40s, for example. So I'm still trying to think about the chronological periodization of the project. And I think I will stop here and open the floor for discussion and for your feedbacks.